Hi, everybody. My name is Ryan Steens. I'm the Assistant Director at the Texas Digital Library. We have a demonstration of progress of work on the Vireo 4 Electronic Theses and Dissertation Submission and Management tool. The product owner and co-chair of the Vireo Users Group, who will be helping lead this presentation today, is Stephanie Larison from Texas State University Libraries. And the developers today are the crew at Texas A&M University, who've been working diligently the past several months on this project. This is the final scheduled development cycle that I'm aware of, at least until we get to the ETD session or ETD conference in Washington, D.C. this fall. And it's happening, I guess, in just like 2 weeks. So they're going to be prepping from now on for that conference, at least for a little while. But from here, I want to hand it over to Stephanie Larison, if she can unmute herself, please. And or is still around.
Hi, everyone. This is Stephanie. I noticed I was just reading the message from David that asking about audio, so I thought maybe we'll do a quick audio check before we continue. How about we'll just, have everyone, oops, I didn't do my, sorry, okay. I'm going to ask everyone to just type something in chat to everyone if you can hear us.
Yes, I would definitely say if you're having
Okay, it looks like we only have one person at the moment that can't hear us, so A&M has a lot of great things to show us, and I'm really excited to have you guys, everyone on the line. Welcome. I think you're going to be very happy with today's demonstration. So, James, I'm going to turn it over to you. We just get started.
Thank you, Stephanie. I also want to give a shout out to our colleague Chris Starcher over at Tech, as well as Karen Savage at Baylor, who've been helping out on this sprint. And I hope that's a prelude of more things to come with collaborations between institutions on this project. So I will just dive into the backlog here and get started with the demonstration. And first up, we have this VIR 193 that the admin would like the ProQuest compatible languages to have an indicator of their compatibility on the admin view. And this was actually done previously, but it was lingering on the backlog for some reason, and so we just wanted to get approval so we can get it out of the way. So I want to come over to our Vireo demo site, and I want to mention that this is behind real shibboleth, so we're pretty happy about that, and I'll use that to log in. So down here on the language management. We do see we have a language in the system. It's English. It is denoted as a ProQuest UMI compatible language. I will add another that I know is so compatible. And I do get the denotation. I will add yet another that is not compatible. And we don't get the flag for that one. So, like I said, that was actually working already, but it was lingering on the backlog. And so, Stephanie, would you approve of moving that over?
Yes, I do.
Yes, I do.
Thanks. And Stephanie, if you prefer to keep your microphone muted, we could also monitor the chat window if you want to confer your approval that way. Of course, if you have questions, it'll probably be better to have a discussion. So next, we're going to do a set of cards having to do with the feature set surrounding degree customization in management. So we'll start with this 499, the ability to customize the degrees, including their name, ProQuest code, and degree level. We'll also see that since we're going to be looking into the controlled vocabulary side of things on this, we'll, while we're there, see some text changes on the controlled vocabulary management. But then further, as far as degrees are concerned, there's this VIR 500, which is introducing the controlled vocabulary for degrees. And then this 493, which is applying that controlled vocabulary to the degree field profile on the personal information step of the submission workflow. So to VIR 499, customizing the available degrees. We'll come back to our admin view here. I'll close the modal so I can get around easier. And let's see, degrees right here. And we have a large set of degrees. This is all Texas A&M stuff, but of course it's fully customizable. So I'm going to add one. Okay, so I pressed enter too fast. I didn't add a level, but I will do so now. Looks good. So that's the name and the level, and now I'm going to come up to the ProQuest and UMI settings, and I will see now in this section of the management that I have a new entry for my new degree. And we will see there that we're able to populate it with a ProQuest degree code. So we actually have an autocomplete for that. And I'll just kind of pick one. And that is how that works. So
James?
that's 499. Is that going to mean James? Yeah.
Yes. The lookup
Yes.
for the ProQuest degree codes, I think those are your degree codes. And I can't tell whether it is in the background. I did not see the abbreviated form. Yes, right there.
Yes, there.
We will need to customize that.
Okay, so that may be so. I don't have intelligence on that. I do know that the listing of the degrees here, so wildlife science, landscape architecture, etc. Those are all Texas A&M specific. I had thought that the ProQuest degree codes were cross-institutional. So all these that are here in the autocomplete, they came from a spreadsheet that I thought had been supplied by ProQuest. But if there's any questions about that, we can certainly address that offline. Okay, and something in the chat window. Oh, not that chat window. Okay, leave a plain text field. Sure, that's fine. Take a note of that. All right, and in that case, we're going to go ahead and leave 499 on the backlog for some further review. But now we're going to jump over to the VIR 504, which is going to be in the context of the controlled vocabulary management. Okay, so I have indeed created my new degree with a ProQuest degree code. I'll go ahead and close this huge accordion here. And now move over to controlled vocabulary management. And the card had asked that we change the text, add controlled vocabulary to create a name for controlled vocabulary, and change manage controlled vocabularies to upload controlled vocabularies. So as you'll recall, in this controlled vocabulary management, there were kind of two main operations originally. There was actually creating the controlled vocabulary itself as a container for the words. And that's what we have here now, is create a name for controlled vocabulary. And then down here we have this upload modal, which used to be management, and now it says upload controlled vocabularies. And this is where you can actually use a CSV file to populate the words of controlled vocabulary. But what we want to do right now is show that we do have a controlled vocabulary for degrees, and we can still use this management modal that has the upload controlled vocabularies button to export that controlled vocabulary. But I do want to ask, though, if we've satisfied the language for card 504, changing the text on those buttons. Okay, thank you, Stephanie. So we'll get that one out of the way. And now, actually in that modal, we're going to see the operation of 500, or at least part of it. And that's the introduction of the controlled vocabulary for the degrees. So, yeah, so we'll select degrees, and we'll export that controlled vocabulary so we can have a look at it. And look at it in Excel here. And we do indeed see that the controlled vocabulary does exist as advertised. And it's going to include our additional new vocabulary word with the appropriate ProQuest code attached to it. These other ones did not have any ProQuest codes attached by default. So for VIR 500, the introduction of a degree entity controlled vocabulary for degrees, is that going to be appropriate for introducing that new controlled vocabulary, Stephanie?
I'm not sure. Not everything has a ProQuest degree code. Can you hear me?
Yes, you sound great.
Okay. I hear a long delay and an echo, so I can't tell. I see that the degree and the degree level in the accordion menu is a little bit different. And I think that they have different purposes, which we don't need to go into here. But the controlled vocabulary for the degree or the program or the school that you're showing, I think that name, the ability to put a name in there is just fine. The second column, and I'm not sure what the heading of that was, is the only thing I'm not sure about, and whether it needs to be something in particular.
Okay, so the controlled vocabularies were originally conceived as having a name, that being the vocabulary word, a definition, which is kind of a catch-all for a second field describing it, and then finally an identifier, which would be preferably like a URI, although institutions may choose to use other identifiers for the vocabulary terms. And all you really need is the name to control the vocabulary. Now, after all, the purpose of these ProQuest degree codes is for the ProQuest exports. They do not serve any other purpose. And the ProQuest exporter is a separate card on the backlog that we're going to have to do some planning around. But I would say that it will be possible to walk back from these vocabulary words to the entities to get all the information you need. And better yet, keeping the information in the control vocabulary would allow it to facilitate the export of that data for ProQuest. But there are certainly some open questions that remain as to how the ProQuest XML exports can be accomplished.
I understand. You can continue.
Okay, great. So to our mind, we certainly think we've introduced that degree entity control vocabulary. And the next card we're going to show is this 493, actually integrating that control vocabulary into the workflow. And as a matter of fact, we're going to have about 7 cards that are going to involve modifying the field profiles and introducing control vocabularies on the admin side. And we're going to show those all on the admin side and defer our request for approval. And then we'll go to the student submission side and get the final approval when we see it in action on that side of things. So that's going to be the case for the degree control vocabulary on the actual field profile in action. But card 500 here is referring to just introducing the vocabulary to begin with. So is that going to be adequate for you, especially with an eye toward the possibility of future ProQuest exports?
That was a yes on VIR 5.
Great. Next we have 493, which is introducing this control vocabulary on page 1 of the workflow. So I'll come back to the admin side and look at my org hierarchy and look at one of these organizations here. And if I look at the workflow on the personal information step, we're going to see the degree drop down. Looking in the control vocabulary, it is going to be controlled by that new degrees vocabulary. And we have a few that are in this spirit. So on the below. Pretty fast. Oh, yes, Stephanie.
Will you double check that the input type, I think it is input select?
Yes, I will double check that.
And yeah.
Okay, looks good.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Next is this 509, control vocabulary for the default embargoes. So for that, we'll come back to the settings once more and look at the embargoes and see that indeed we're going to have these default embargoes. While I'm at it, I'll show 510, the ProQuest embargoes right down here. So there's those. If we look at the control vocabulary management, we're going to be able to, in the upload and management modal, confirm that these do in fact exist. There's the defaults, default embargoes. Next is the ProQuest embargoes. ProQuest embargoes. And next is the degree date entity. And this is used as like the, I think, graduation month. It's also called in the context of the student workflow, which again, we will be seeing soon. Yes, that's this 505 here. Configure graduation semesters to control degree date month. So for that, first let's look at down here graduation months. And here's where you can configure those. So that is looking to be configured. And I will now be able to confirm that those are what we expect. Okay, so these are actually the months by number. And next is 495, configured languages to control the language field profile. So we just saw the languages earlier on, and I had a few of them in there. We'll just confirm that they're in the system. Looks good. And now, switching gears a little bit, out of control vocabularies, we'll look at VIR 468, that managers want to attach hidden fields to submissions so that metadata can be transferred without the student having to worry about it. And kind of in a related vein, this 508, managers would like to set default values to pre-populate those fields. You'll recall we also have shibboleth-based pre-population, but this kind of pre-population is just setting a default by typing it in on the admin side. So I'm going to go ahead and, for simplicity, demonstrate both of these on one particular field. So we'll come back to the organization management here, and I'll look at, let's say, the College of Engineering at Texas A&M College Station, and we'll look at the personal information. And I'm going to target this school field profile to show off the fact that we can hide these, for one thing. And then also that we can add default values. So I'm going to update that. I'm going to refresh the page just to confirm that the data were persisted on the back end for us. Okay, so that looks like the hidden didn't take. So yeah, okay, we're having some minor issues with persisting some of these values. So I'm going to go for that one more time here. Okay, so I think that's going to have work there for us. Okay, great. So we took a note of that. So we'll be doing some tweaks to the field profile editing modal, which you can see a lot of changes happened on that during the course of the last sprint. But I hope that shouldn't have any other impacts. All right. Now the next one, so I want to say now that that VIR 493, where we had that degree entity on the degree dropdown, all the way through 508, where we were setting the default field profile value, all that stuff, we're going to see it manifest again when we go to the student submission side, and that's when we're going to finally say that it's fully functional. But as long as we're still on the admin side here, the next thing we want to see is this 503, and that's offering a strike-through on field profiles that have been disabled. So for that, I will come over to the admin side again, and I'm still managing my workflow here. And let's suppose that College of Engineering doesn't want the middle name field anymore. So they can come to the settings on that and set it to disabled. And we see it with a strike through now. So just to confirm the persistence of that data. Yep, looks good. So is that going to meet your expectations for 503 putting a strike through the disabled field profiles?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Great. Okay, next is this 484. Yeah, here we go. 484. Getting a notification of successful save of changes on organization settings. So to show this one off, I'm going to come over to actually my root level organization here, which is just called institution. And we see we have a bunch of campuses under that, and we'd like to customize the name of that. So we'll come to the management view here, and we'll change the name. Yeah, that's a good name for it. And we will save that. And now we see that we get this confirmation. The data had been going through previously, but it was not good feedback without a confirmation. So for card 484, getting a notification of successful save of changes on the organization settings, is that one going to be okay to move off the backlog?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. And the last thing we're going to see before we jump over to the student submission side is going to be this 498. And that is configuring the text on the organization selection triptych, where the student selects what organization they're submitting to. So for that, I'm going to come over to the application settings. It's going to be under organization settings. So here's the header where we can change it. Have some other appropriate text there. Looks good. And now we'll go ahead and jump over to the student submission side. So go ahead and open a new tab for that. Log right back in and start a submission. And so here we see that the text is now changed to the new setting. So is that going to meet expectations for 498, configuring that text at the top of the triptych?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. So this user is now going to start a submission. We'll go ahead and go to the one that we did our customizations on and start the submission. Okay, so there are immediately a few things to note, thinking back to some of those previous cards. So first of all, this VIR 493, introducing the degree entity control vocabulary on the degree field profile. We do see here the drop down for that, and here I'm able to pick the appropriate data. So that's going to bring us back to 493. It finishes the story out for both the admin side and the student submission side. So actually a question for you, Stephanie, do you want to see the submission complete before we ask for approval on, for example, 493, or is it just going to be acceptable to see it in action on a given page of the submission?
I think just on a given page is just fine. It would be logged as a bug or something if it didn't show up on staff. Is that right?
Right.
That sounds good.
Okay.
Okay.
So I would ask then if 493, the degree entity control vocabulary on the degree field profile is meeting expectations?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. So we're going to proceed with this submission and enter some reasonable looking data. Actually, okay, there's more stuff we need to mention before we move on. We do see that that disabled field profile is missing. So we have first name, last name. We're not seeing the middle name, but there wasn't an explicit card for that. I think that might have been done on a previous sprint, actually, now that I think about it. Anyways, just something to mention there that we're that's still operational. Okay. Okay, so on page 2 is where we accept the licenses, and we are going to see some cards about this later on in the demo today. But I'm just going to go ahead and accept my licenses. And continue on to page 3. Okay, so here on page 3, we've got some more confirmations to seek. So the degree date is one in particular. We see now that this is using a date picker that is subject to the control vocabulary that we saw for that graduation date. So we can pick things from that control vocabulary with a date picker. And that is going to elicit a request for VIR 505, the degree, date, entity, control vocabulary.
I have a question on that. I think it's something very smart, and you can't pick anything in the past. Is that correct?
Correct.
I think I tried to do something accidentally for a date that has already occurred, and it wouldn't accept it, and I have no idea whether that is something, if anyone ever has to backdate. Oh, never mind. It might have just been on the version that I was testing.
Retroactive graduation. Yeah, it doesn't appear to be that
Okay.
smart, right? Although I'm not sure if that's desired or not.
Okay.
Hard to say.
It worked.
Fine.
Okay, so 505, the degree, date, entity, control vocabulary is going to meet your expectations then?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. The other ones we need to see here are going to be the embargoes. And for those, we do see radio selectors that are controlled with the vocabularies for default embargoes and for ProQuest embargoes. And these texts here certainly match the vocabulary words, such as they were, that we saw in those vocabularies. So that is going to elicit a request for approval on 509 and 510. Any questions on how these are looking?
I get. Oh, well, I only have a question about the boxes for the embargoes. Is there any way that we can make them extend? There's a lot of scrolling. I was just wondering if there's some way to limit that. And I'm also looking in, trying to pull up Vireo 3. We may have had a label and then the definition like we see here. And that might be necessary because that's a lot of, unless it accepts some HTML to bold something or underline, this might be difficult for people to read, or that they would just, I don't know, ignore it.
Okay, so we may want to iterate on this then and put some more cards on the backlog, especially after a comparison with Vireo 3. Unless you have a Vireo 3 handy where you can kind of do a comparison right now.
I'm looking.
Okay, but we'll be happy hanging onto these cards or generating new cards at your discretion.
Okay. Yes. Yeah, we do have a label in Vireo 3 where it would say 1 year embargo. Then there's a radio button, or whatever you call it, select button, I don't know, radio button, and then the definition. And let's see. And it's kind of taking up two-thirds of the screen. So I guess this one might need a little more work, but in terms of the definition from the admin side is showing in the student side, then yes, it's absolutely working there. But we do need to make some tweaks, I think.
Okay, so shall we hang on to these cards or make some new cards?
I think new cards are just fine.
Okay, well that might be good. We'll certainly take a note that we have some stylistic as well as some data concerns about the rendering on the student side. But I do think I agree with you that the entity control vocabularies are fully operational. So it makes sense to move over then 509 and 510. Okay, and the last thing to see here on page 3 is going to be the language drop-down, which we are going to see here is using another entity control vocabulary for the language entity. So that's going to wrap up the demo of 495, which was the configured languages to control the language field profile and document info step.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks. Okay, so now we're going to look at some new cards about some text changes that were requested. So first of all, this 492 is a text change there on page 3. And the default text of committee member field profile should be now enter the names of your non-sharing committee members. So that exact text did not fit great, so we kind of abridged it a little bit there. And then we added some help text that has the full rendering of that sentence. So perhaps not exactly the letter of the card, but I do wonder if it meets expectations.
Yes, it does.
Yes, it does.
Excellent. And then for 87, that's actually going to be on the next page, on page 4. So I'm going to wrap up page 3 now with some passable data. Looks good. Continue to file upload. Okay, so here we see a text change that we're going to get approval on. It's this 487 change text of file uploads from drop a file here to begin upload to choose file here or drag and drop to upload. So choose file here or drag and drop to upload.
Okay.
Does that look good, Steph?
Okay. Yes.
Great. And then is this VIR 517, provide feedback when exception thrown when uploading a new file. So I don't think you actually requested this one specifically, Stephanie, but when we were kind of debugging some stuff with file upload on the Tomcat web container, the file uploads had a lot of problems, and it was actually very helpful to us to get feedback for error uploads. But we'll see if you feel the same. So what I'm going to do is come back to the workflow here, and I think somewhere I do have a file that's too big. Okay, so this file right here exceeds 20 meg, which is the limit on that. So this file is too big. We should get notification about that fact. Works on my Mac.
I would have rejected it before I moved to this upload screen.
For smaller files, when it, well, actually, or big ones like this, is it necessary to stay on this page or anything until the arrows quit spinning or the bar shows 100%? I don't know. I'm just asking for training or just so we know how it's intended to operate.
That should continue to run in the background if you move away from the page. But it does also look like we're not achieving 517 here to anybody's satisfaction. So that one was working a little bit earlier, but not at the moment. So we'll withdraw any request for approval on that one. But we will nevertheless continue with our fantastic submission here. Pick maybe a easier file to deal with. That looks better. And we'll go ahead and continue to the review. And so here we're going to want to look at another text change, VIR 488. That's going to be down here in the confirm and submit button. And the request was to change the text from submit to confirm and submit to match the step name and the content in the warning section at the bottom of the screen. And it does indeed say confirm and submit. So does that look good, Stephanie?
Yes, the text is better.
Sure. Okay. I will indeed complete this submission. And I do want to mention now that we had introduced a custom action. There are a couple of custom actions now in this system here that we added today. One of them is going to be universally visible so the student can see it. That's this make sure advisor is happy. And the other one is going to be visible just to the managers, and that's notify internal officials. So this one does have the check to make it visible to the student. This second one is not student visible. But this is in the context now of VIR 490. Did I miss it? Here it is. Okay, so checklist items marked student visible not showing on submission review page. So this student will come over and look at the submission. And here we go. The requirement now is showing up. So is that looking good for VIR 490?
Yes.
Yes.
Those to show? Great. So we're going to now jump back to the admin side. And in fact, I'm going to go over to the submission list. And here is the submission that was recently submitted. And here now for VIR 521, submission date not populating. We can see that that bug was fixed, and we are getting the submission date right here. So does that fix the bug in your view, Stephanie?
I think I needed, I'm not sure if could you show it in this, the actual, the submission view, not the list view? I mean, I think it's fine there. I can't remember whether that's true, was it? Okay.
Okay, great. And so now we're going to actually look back to VIR 468 and 508, which were the hidden field profiles and default field profiles. And lo and behold, there it is. The student didn't see it, but the student did get a school metadata set to that default of engineering school. So how then do you feel about 468 and 508, Stephanie? Wherever they are. 468, hidden field, and default value on field.
I think they work, yes.
Yes. Okay, great. So now we need to look at VIR 522, that the manager needs to see license text and the acceptance date when they're viewing that item. And so you'll recall that this student over here did indeed accept both the licenses. And we do in fact see both the licenses listed here under all files. And we can see the text for those if we care to. So the actual text in the right file type with the right time, is that going to be adequate for VIR 522, Stephanie?
I'm sorry, did the text file have the date within it?
Oh, an excellent question.
And the student name?
Let me see.
It did not have either of those.
Is that a separate card?
It wasn't on the specification of the card,
Okay.
so it must have missed, I guess, in card creation.
Okay, so we'll make a new card for it.
Yeah, it would not be, I mean, a ton of points to do that, but is it on there? No. Okay. Well, we can leave them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Looks like there was some language. You want to keep on there?
Yeah, I mean, if it's on there, sure.
Okay, yeah, so the licenses were not getting made really according to the requirements on that, so we'll go ahead and keep 522 on there, and we'll resize it for the next sprint.
Okay.
But that looks still pretty good. A lot of progress on that. The next one is this 518, and that's to add some new document types on the admin side for license, archived, feedback, and unknown to the add and the edit dialogues. And so if you want to add a file, we're going to see now, if we add additional documents, we do indeed have license, feedback, archived, and unknown as options in that list. And is there anywhere else we need to look for that, Stephanie?
is it, sorry, I meant to go scroll back down to the, where the files are, and the edit button.
Oh, here we
Yes,
go.
right
Yeah.
there. Yeah, that's where I was mostly looking for. Okay, yes.
Okay, yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. So we'll move 518 right on over. And then our last couple cards for today's demonstration are recapitulating a feature of Vireo 3, where the admin could replace the primary document, and in so doing, archive the previous primary document and get all that logged in the action log. So a nice way to wrap things up today. With 519, the add file window. It's going to have now replaced the primary document with the ability to choose a file. And we'll ask for approval at the same time as 516, which is the manager needing that existing primary document to be changed to archived when the new primary is uploaded. So we have a primary right here. It's this PDF. We're going to add a file, replace the primary document. Here's a good PDF. Okay. So we have our new PDF now as the primary document. The old PDF is now prefixed with archived, and it's in the archived file type. Up here in the action log, we get the record that a new primary was uploaded at just now. And in addition, the old primary was archived at that time also. So, Stephanie, can you accept VIR 519 and 516?
Yes.
Thank you. And that concludes our demo for today.
Wow. You guys have done a lot. Thank you so much. I have made some notes about some additional small things to do. I want to thank everyone for hanging in there to listen to all the great things that Texas A&M and Baylor and Chris Starcher at Texas Tech have done. If you are going to the ETD 2017 symposium, we will be doing a kind of a slower run through of Vireo 4 that's on Monday morning. So it's not 2 weeks from now. It's actually this coming Monday in Washington, D.C. So I hope you can join us. We're also having a Vireo users group meeting where we will also talk about Vireo 4 development. So hope to see you there. Thank you guys. You did a fantastic job as usual. Oh, and one last thing. So from what I understand, I think, so Texas A&M is is not starting on a new sprint for Vireo right now, but in another 3 weeks, we will pick this up again for one sprint. And I think that's it. If anyone has any questions, please type them into the chat box. I see you're typing, Ryan. So anyone up for beta testing? Crickets on that one. Do we have anyone scheduled for the fall to run Vireo 4? Oh, same thing. Or will that be possible? So David asked, would the testing have to be locally hosted? Right now, you can download it from GitHub and I guess test all you want. Ryan, I'm not sure I understand your question about anyone scheduled for the fall to run Vireo 4. If you're meaning to do you mean the beta testing to try it out or actually go live? Because go live is a no.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to get a feel for what the development schedule is and what the Aggies feel, and you feel is the target end date for getting to a point where we can actually release this and someone could actually run it. We had talked several months ago about it possibly being this fall, and I'm just trying to figure out like how I know it feels like we're still a little bit away, so I'm trying to. Some folks though don't start even opening their Vireo till later in the semester, that sort of thing. So I'm just trying to get a feel for how we're feeling right now, and kind of as we're presenting at ETD in a couple weeks, what we're going to be saying about that.
It's not a couple weeks. Sorry, it's not a couple weeks. It's next week. Yeah, less than a week.
Right.
I guess I'll start out, I think, answering at least from my perspective. So if I understand correctly, what is out there on GitHub right now might be considered an alpha release. So it is usable. So there are just some small pieces I think that still need to be done. At this point, I believe Texas A&M has committed only to one more additional sprint, so we are still needing assistance from other universities to help out. I think that the beta testing, and I hesitate to say that the beta testing something would be ready for fall, because if we don't get some assistance, from what I understand, if we do the beta testing, then it's kind of feature frozen, and it might only be bug fixes after that. And there's still some still some details in there that we need to get updated or changed, so it's matching what we see, either the way it's presented in Vireo 3 or the way that it's used in Vireo 3. So there are still some things to do. Most of it is quite minor. We have no exporters except for the one that's sorted over to DSpace. So without the ProQuest exporter, and maybe I could ask them if they can do anything to help with that. I would not say that it would be in beta, because that's kind of a big feature that is in Vireo 3 that we do not have yet. So, but James and A&M, do you have a different perspective on anything, or is that your?
That sounds about right to us. If I can speak for the team here, and feel free to correct me, guys, but I think the ProQuest export is kind of the last major blocker. We can review the beta backlog in Jira and see if there's other major stuff. Forgive me, I haven't had my head in that game for a couple weeks here because we've been staring so much at the current backlog. But I would also have to say that the ProQuest exporter, while a big feature, would not be that hard to pull off. It really is just writing a template to output an XML file. And if that's something that other institutions care about, it'd be a real low barrier to entry in development to get to work on that feature. And it'd be a great way to get your own local requirements into the system.
Thank you, James. Would anyone, if David there and John Hopkins or Drew felt like downloading the GitHub is what you have there, do they need to contact you for anything, or it's self-explanatory? Or download it and you have questions, contact James? What would you suggest?
It looks like the Aggies are muted, so I don't know if they're talking to the air right now or not. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Ryan, could you repeat the question?
If someone downloads the software at this point and they have issues, what should their next step be? If they're having trouble getting their Vireo force spun up to test.
We watch the Vireo mailing list, so that'd be a great place to put out an email. I check that most days. And if I have an expectation that people are going to be posting concerns or questions there, it'd be a great forum to record this kind of discussion and get it out there for other people to see. And if that's a venue that other people are interested in using, then I'd be more careful to check it on a daily basis.
Okay, we'll look into that. So I think we're done then. I believe that we've answered all the questions that have been asked. So I want to thank you again, James, and the rest of the Texas A&M team. Chris there at Tech, and our Baylor folks are now gone, but thank you, Baylor. So I'll be getting in touch with you later this week to get prepared for the ETD 2017 symposium there in Washington, D.C., so we can show a little more of Vireo 4. Thank you, everyone, for attending, and just watch the listserv for any future news. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. It's been a lot of fun.